Now, I'm going to be absolutely honest with you guys, I have made this video at least 3 times, and I just never uploaded it, and the reason is because I can never get the video right. And the main reason is that I use the Owen out in the field, and I formulate an opinion on it. But when I go and test these two weapons in the firing range, I get different results. Like, I personally say the F1 is more accurate than the Owen, and it definitely shows, or it just feels more accurate when I'm using it out in the field compared to in the gun range, because it's just the strangest thing. When I'm using the Owen gun in the test range, it just feels more accurate. It just feels better in terms of handling. But when I actually use it in a real gameplay scenario, I don't like the Owen. I prefer the F1. It just feels better. Now, the thing is, when I use these two guns out in the server or in a firing range, my opinion just changes so much, to the point where I just doubt everything that I say, and I don't know if I'm able to actually convey what I want in the best way that I think I should be able to. But I have decided, you know, enough is enough, and this video is going to be finished. And I want to try and analyze all the similarities and differences that I've picked up on when using these weapons. Now, before I go on, for starters, like the video, please. But secondly, when it comes to these two guns, there isn't one that is outright better than the other. The one you do best with is obviously the better one, but I know, right, that, you know, there might be a low level or multiple low level players watching this video, and they probably don't have an SSD to be able to get the classes with these guns quick enough, and they're probably wondering, with the limited amount of times that they can get these weapons, you know, which one should they be using? Which one is the best on? Which is the one that is going to get them all these kills and make them some pro player? But look, starting off, I want to talk about some similarities between these two weapons, and the first is that they both fire the same ammo, 9x90mm. They both have absolutely horrendous iron sights. Most people say the Owen has better iron sights, but I disagree. I personally prefer the F1 because I just like having more peripheral, and also, you know, they're both well, you know, submachine guns. Now, while the F1 is technically an upgrade to the Owen when we look at it from a historical standpoint, the in-game stats suggest that the Owen is technically better. You know, truth be told, I don't even know how to read the stats. They're not really clear. Like, what does power mean? What does power mean? I don't understand. Is this like the raw fucking power of the gun and how fast and how powerful it can shoot out a fucking bullet? It makes no sense. But what I'm trying to say is the in-game stats suggest that the Owen gun is better. And truth be told, when we look at the stats, right, we expect the gun to handle a certain way, but it isn't the case. But look, I want to talk about a couple of differences between the weapons, and the first is that the F1 gets one more bullet. Now, one bullet might seem like nothing, but if I'm gonna be honest, right, this is probably a bad comparison, but this is how I approach this situation the way that I was thinking, right? So the M16, right, has 18 bullets. Now, obviously, some gun nut watching this is gonna be like, no, it has 20. Well, no, in Rising Storm 2 Vietnam, it has 18 bullets. Suck my fucking ass, okay? That's it. And the M14 has 20 bullets, right? The M16, when fired in semi-auto, right, feels like it has much less ammo compared to the M14, even though it is a 2-bullet difference. Now, while I don't consider this, you know, like a deal breaker or something, right, because I always reload well before I get that low in ammo for almost every gun, unless I'm going like full auto spamming and I need like every single bullet. But I mean, you know, there have been times where I've just wished that like I could just have one more bullet. One more bullet could have always made the difference. But I mean, if for this 1 bullet difference is really like a deal breaker, because I mean 33, 34 rounds of ammo is still plenty in my opinion. But moving on, another difference, and this is the main reason why I will always pick the F1 over the Owen, right? 10 out of 10 times. And that is the fact that the F1 doesn't have a limiter when firing in semi-auto mode. Now, this feature can also be found on the L2A1, which is also why I like that LMG. Now, while this might seem like a gimmick to some people, for most guns in the game, you don't really need automatic, right? I only use my AK-47s in automatic just because, I mean, what are you gonna do about it? I'm the one using the gun. There's nothing you can do to stop me. I'm a fucking madman. If I want to use my guns in full auto, I'll use my guns in full auto. And I acknowledge the fact that I should be using it in semi. But look, in terms of the F1, having full control over how fast you want to fire, like I could spam the mouse as fast as I want and the gun will fire as fast as I spam it. This doesn't apply to the Owen, right? And this is like the biggest thing about the F1. Now, I could probably equate this to driving a manual car. And you know, since I'm not European and am from a younger generation, I have only driven a manual once. I hated it. But but the sense of having total control over the car is good, and this is how I feel about using the F1. I have total control over the weapon and how fast I want to fire it. Now, I'll admit, what the Owen has going for it is that, I'd prefer it for close quarters because it has a better rate of fire, and it also performs well. From what I have experienced, it's pretty decent when you use it as sort of like a burst fire. I mean, I almost never use this gun in semi-auto mode. It just feels awkward in the way that the gun bounces around. The F1 just feels way more controllable compared to the Owen in semi-auto. But if I find myself needing to use a gun for close quarters specifically, where I just want to go full auto, get as many bullets out as possible, I would probably take the Owen gun. But I mean, let's be honest, that isn't always the case. We're always going to need to adapt to the scenario, and the gun that's able to adapt better, in my opinion, is well the better gun, which is why I take the F1, because it doesn't feel like an SMG. The Owen feels like an SMG, right? In the sense that it can dominate in close quarters, but if you go beyond, like, let's say the medium and long range, it just suffers. It just doesn't feel good, the handling, in my opinion, even in full auto or in semi. But when I use the F1, it's decent at close range, but it's also decent beyond that in like medium to long range. But I mean, obviously, if you want a gun to absolutely sweat yourself over, which can be good in, long, close, medium, and all ranges and almost every scenario, just take the L1A1. Really, that's, in my opinion, probably one of the best, if not the best, probably the second best gun in the game. It does have shit iron sights, okay, fair enough, but it's fantastic, the L1A1, compared to both of these weapons. But if you're playing as the scout role or radio man or whatever, well, you can only get the Owen, I think, as radio man, but let's say you're playing as a scout, you don't know if you should take the Owen or the F1. My personal experience, I'd take the F1 and use it in semi-auto. But look, I'm going to end today's video there. I hope you guys did enjoy it, because if you did, I would really appreciate the likes and subscribes, please. Anyways, my name is Tantwo, and I will catch you guys in the next video. Peace.